Hello, it's lovely to see you, and over to you.
Yeah, hello, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting us. So we're going to talk about the use of AI in language assessment. So what does it look like when you allow your students to use AI as part of their assessment? And we're going to explore exactly that by sharing our experience with implementing writing tasks with AI in our summative assessment in a German beginners course that I teach and a German course for higher levels that Britta teaches. A little bit of context. So the course we'll talk about is called a fast track course. It's a year-long course that covers more than one CFR level. It's more or less extracurricular, so it only counts for a small number of students towards the degree. The assessment includes a online test that we design in our VLE to assess the usual skills, and students take this assessment 2/3 into the course to evaluate whether they have reached the first language level. Alongside this snapshot assessment, the course also includes some other more diversified forms of assessment, which take place in different moments of the learning process and which encourage reflective learning and also engagement. So what did our AI tasks look like? It's worth mentioning that they were optional. So we had some sort of more conventional tasks alongside interactive chat with GenAI, and students could select between these two. In my German beginners course, I provided students with a prompt and said, can you act as my German-speaking friend? Let's have a chat. I will start the conversation, reply in short and simple German. I'm a German learner at beginner level. So I deliberately left the conversation topic open to allow learners to select a topic that resonated with them, to give them kind of agency to personalize or authenticate the tasks in a way that's meaningful to them. And then I set conversation guidelines. So I would set an interaction limit to roughly match the word count in the more conventional task. And I pointed out that if students struggle with the AI response, they should just apply strategies as they would do in real life, like asking for clarification or asking for paraphrasing. And students had to provide a brief reflection in English at the end on how the conversation went, like reflecting on whether they had any challenges or whether they learned something new or any other insights. So why did I decide to implement AI into the assessment? Well, I've been using this task for the past 2 years because it reflects what we do in class. I support learners if they wish to use AI as part of their learning. And it just made sense to also integrate that into the assessment. And also by including AI into the assessment, you kind of reinforce its role as a partner rather than something separate or external. And as we've heard today already, AI tasks provide an opportunity to shift the focus from assessment of learning to assessment for learning. Because of this interactive nature, learners engage in the process more spontaneously, and they tend to be more explorative and pick up new things in the process. And also this aligns with our broader assessment approach, where reflection and learning strategies are encouraged and valued. And also AI is a pretty good and flexible communication partner. So for students who find a blank page intimidating, AI provides this low pressure environment, and it just helps them to get started. And it also adapts to our learners' plurilingual repertoire. So if a learner doesn't know the word in English, in German, if the learner doesn't know the word in German, they can just use the English word or the word from the first language, and the conversation is still successful.
Yes, so my task for more advanced learners consisted of an interview with a fictitious professor about digital media, opportunity or danger. And students could choose a focus in this interview, either on TikTok or fake news. And then generative AI would generate questions, and they could choose to answer these questions, or they could dodge these questions, as long as they would do so in a communicative, suitable way. And compared to Connie's example, I have a more detailed task description where the role play unfolds within very tight set parameters, as you can see. So why did I develop this task? My focus here really was on authenticity. The required word length for this assessment is about 150 words, and this really is too short for an in-depth analysis of whatever topic, but it's uncommonly long for more casual communication, such, for example, a text or a WhatsApp message. So nowadays, written conversations are habitually broken down into smaller pieces rather than writing one longish text. And another focus was meaningfulness. So I wanted to increase motivation for this specific task and therefore output in quantity and quality by making them write something which they would usually in their life write as well. And the last thing is that I really wanted to encourage students to employ their knowledge and skills and to employ it more creatively for problem solving rather than regurgitate a limited set of linguistic structures as they often do in a conventional task.
So we also try to catch the student experience, and I'm going to share some student voices from learners who opted for the AI task. One student said, "It created prompts to develop my ideas and led my flow of thought that was easier to create spontaneously than writing a straight paragraph. I enjoyed the new vocab, and it was nice to work in a dialogue rather than in a vacuum." Or another student said, "AI is a good partner to have a conversation with, because it provides guidance and directions for where the conversation is going. In addition, even if you don't know the certain vocab you can use the English words, AI would understand, and you can learn the German word from AI." So, Britta, what did your students say?
Yes, so I have two students who opted against the AI task. And the first student said, "I wasn't sure how it would be marked, and I was unfamiliar with the concept. So in a time-restricted test, I opted for the more familiar option." And the second student said very bluntly, "Too time-consuming." So I want to really make the point here that students feel less comfortable and less in control in regards of time and of effort to complete the task, and in regards of what they will be confronted with by these unknown other in content as well as in language, and in regards of expectations of the markers and how it will be marked.
And then students raised ethical objections or ethical questions, which just underscores the need to have two tasks, a non-AI task and an AI task. Or another student was worried about being accused of cheating. This just highlights there's a need for an open, ongoing dialogue on that topic. So our observations and outcomes.
Yes, so looking at the student output of the writing task with the AI, we observed the following. Students really demonstrated their spontaneous and genuine communication skills, which reflected their real-time skills and not just rehearsed phrases. And especially in higher levels, students showed a wider range of linguistic structures and especially communicative competence, as they had to react to varied and unpredictable prompts from AI. And even when the grammar wasn't perfect, AI kept the conversation going and prompted students to really elaborate, to clarify, or to stretch their output. And this encouraged idea development rather than that they brood over one particular sentence and how it needs to be built to be absolutely accurate. So in the end, students spent less time on perfecting every sentence, which is perhaps prone then to producing more spelling errors or errors in syntax, but instead they spend more time using the language creatively for problem solving, to make their ideas comprehensible and to make AI really understand what they wanted to say.
Yeah, and also the reflections from our learners made clear that another key outcome was increased motivation and obviously reduction in the fear of this blank page. And students also reported picking up vocabulary and new structures during the task itself. So that was learning through this interaction, which is just a reminder that assessment doesn't have to be like separate from learning. It can happen simultaneously. So something we've taken forwards from all of this is it's really important to make the assessment criteria clear and explicit early on. Students need to know what they are assessed on to feel confident and in control. And second, when you use an AI task, we kind of have to shift the focus away from this grammatical accuracy more towards successful communication. So rather than just asking, can the learner recall grammar and spelling rules, we start asking, can they communicate and with intention? So we're no longer just assessing what they have learned, but more how they put to use what they know. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, kind of linking on to kind of what you were just talking about there. It's I think the assessment information is absolutely vital.
Great, my
and
camera is frozen. I'm having my tongue out.
Oh, don't worry. It happens to the best of us. Don't worry.
Right.
Just talking about kind of the assessment information and how the wording kind of is, and linking to the previous talk with Dino. I wonder if kind of there's maybe a body of work that most institutions, if not all of them, need to kind of go back through the assessment information and look at the wording as how it's being written, and maybe checking in with students to actually see do they read that as we want them to read that, because the stress that can bring at a crucial time could possibly be avoided. Yeah, so anyway, we do have a couple of questions. We've got one from Mike in the Q&A, and he's asked, how did you assess these tasks? What was the marking criteria?
Well, I wish you hadn't asked this question.
Okay, we can.
So no, it's okay. I mean, it's yeah. So we have, and that's kind of linked to the setup of our assessment. So we're using Canvas for the online assessment, and we can only attach one marking rubric to a assessment. So we had to we just used the marking rubrics that we were using for all of our tasks. So we had the usual suspects, spelling, lexic, syntax, grammatical accuracy, and there was nothing specifically about conversation skills. So for next year, we clearly need to refine that, and I already forwarded to the Canvas team a request to be able to attach different marking rubrics to the same assessment and to have more flexibility there, because currently it's technically not possible.
I would like to ask, I would like to point here for the advanced level. I found it worked to really bring a part of the rubric, which is called completion of the task, inside, because I found that the students who opted for the AI task generally had a broader variety of perspectives. They brought pro and contra. They adapted better to spontaneous questions as the ones who just wrote a text about their own view, because they rarely then did a pro and contra. So I was actually able to put this into account that they had used this AI task. and set this up against maybe more grammatical errors.
Thank you. We have a kind of a question here. It's and you've kind of mentioned it already, but it's someone has said, I was shocked to hear that in the first talk, most students don't seem to consider the environmental impacts of AI use. I know that you were saying that actually some of your students did flag that as a concern.
Yeah, they do.
Is that kind of across the board? Do you find that across the institution? I know you're within the language center, but do you have any students that actually, I mean, at
They're
Kent,
totally
we know that
against.
this is...
Yeah. There's students, they explicitly say, I don't want to use that because of the environmental impact. Hence, you need like options.
Yeah.
When you offer AI tasks, you also have to offer an option that allows for the task completion without AI. But yes, that's definitely a point.
Yeah.
We also had, excuse me, we also had students flagging up that they found it unethical to use a tool which uses the work of others, so plagiarism. So again, as Connie said, we need to have a different tool. But on the other hand, it seems to be so useful in language lesson where almost all of students, at least in my courses in higher levels, complain about being on their own in learning a different language. They don't have a partner, and AI can be this partner. So yeah, you have to weigh in pros and cons here.
That's great, thank you. I wonder if maybe that's something we can look to incorporate in a future webinar, is something more on kind of the environmental impacts, because it's certainly something that is affecting us all. So I think it'd be really good to include that. Okay, thank you so much. We've reached time. If you do have any other questions for our speakers, please pop them in the Q&A or the chat, and we can pass them on hopefully after the webinar. So we will try to get some answers to your questions if you haven't had them already.